Good morning. My name is Philip Harding. I live in Tyler, Texas. It's in Northeast Texas, about 2 hours east of Dallas and about an hour or so west of Shreveport, Louisiana. I graduated from Ethnos 360 Bible Institute May of last year with a associate's in biblical studies, and I'm currently working towards my bachelor's of Bible and theology here at Calvary University. My older sister, I have 5 sisters and 2 brothers, so I come from a fairly large family. And my oldest sister and my uncle graduated from Calvary back when it was just Calvary Bible College. So that's how I heard about this college, and I've been very grateful I've been able to take online classes here. I currently work as a caregiver, taking care of those who cannot take care of themselves. So helping those who are old or who are disabled. And I really enjoy that, being able to serve God in that way. The topic I will be presenting on today is the temptation of Jesus and his sinlessness through his temptations. So when Jesus came to earth, he took on humanity. He made himself able to be tempted. We know that God cannot be tempted with evil, nor does he tempt anyone, the Bible says. But Jesus, because he was a man, because he came and took on human form, he opened himself to that temptation. He opened himself to be tempted. And most of us, when we hear the temptation of Jesus, we think about his temptation in the wilderness. And we find that in Luke and Matthew, both in chapter 4. It also mentions his temptation in Mark 1, but we're not given any details there, really. In these books, it tells us of how Satan comes to Jesus after he's been fasting in the wilderness for 40 days. And we're told that he's hungry. And so the first thing that Satan tempts him with is make these rocks into bread. He says, alleviate your human sufferings. Alleviate the sufferings you had. And the second thing is test God. See if these promises are really true. He asked him to jump off the top of the temple and make sure that God would save him. He asked Jesus to test God's promise to him. And then he shows him Satan shows Jesus the kingdom of the earth, and he says, bow down and worship me, and I'll give you all of these. He's asking Jesus to serve him and get the kingdom of the earth instead of following God's plans to get if God's plans that would make him ruler of the earth. And this is just probably one of the main ways, but it's the main topic of temptation. We don't know if there were more temptations, if the devil ever came to him again, or if there are other ways that Jesus was tempted. This is the main way we are told that he's tempted. And this idea of Jesus' sinlessness is very important. Every other person before and after Christ, every other human to ever live on the earth, they could not live a sinless life. We all sinned. We all failed. From Adam to the very last man to ever live, we all sinned. But Jesus was sent to earth to come and live a perfect life so he could be our perfect sacrifice for us. And his sinless life is a very integral part of why he could be a sacrifice when no one else could. My key verse for this topic is Hebrews 4:15. For we do not have a priest who is unable to empathize with our weaknesses, but we have one who is tempted in every way just as we are, and yet he did not sin. We see Jesus' humanity through the fact that he was tempted. We cannot go up to Jesus and say, oh, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what life is like. You don't know what it's like to be tempted with evil, because he does. He was tempted on earth just as we are tempted on earth. And even though he remains sinless, he knows what that's like. And that's what Hebrews is talking about here. But it also shows that Jesus was tempted severely, in fact, and yet he remains sinless. Jesus never fell victim to the sin that we so often do, and so he has allowed us to be and so it allows him to be that perfect sacrifice for us. There are 2 major misunderstandings I found regarding this topic, and they hold one on either side. One focuses way too much on his humanity, one too much on his deity, probably. The first I found, and this is more held by liberal groups of Christianity, was some outright deny that Jesus could have lived a sinful life. They say, oh, he was a good man, and that's why he could be the sacrifice, is because he lived a good life, but he couldn't have lived a sinless life. And that just can't be true. God doesn't demand a good sacrifice. He demands a perfect sacrifice, a sheep without spot or blemish. And so we see that if Jesus really didn't live a sinful life, then he couldn't have been that sacrifice for us. And as we saw in Hebrews, we're told over and over again that Jesus didn't sin, that he was tempted, but he didn't sin. The other place I found misunderstanding is that some claim that the temptations of Christ weren't real, that because Christ had deity, that he wasn't really tempted. And this would ruin him being able to empathize with us. If the temptations weren't real, if it was just a fake thing, then Jesus really wouldn't be empathized with what life was like. He wouldn't understand temptation because it wouldn't have had any effect on him. My main question for this topic is, do you think that Jesus was tempted outside of his wilderness temptation by the devil? Do you think the devil came to tempt him again, or other people came to tempt him, or do you think that was his main time of temptation? Thank you so much.